gentlemen, and our friends between and beyond, and welcome to the Kitchen of Creativity for another very special episode of Hook Cooks, the improvised storytelling podcast guaranteed to feed a hunger you didn't know you had. I am Mitch the Monster Chef.
My name is Dishbot, and tonight I will play the role of Jack.
And I am your larder critter, Connor.
We would love to welcome a new guest chef into the kitchen tonight, Chris Magilton, writer, producer, and star of Among the Stars and Bones, a science fiction audio drama. Chris, as a man who evidently wears many hats, thank you so much for taking the time out to try and balance a chef's hat on the pile with us tonight.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me along.
Thank you.
You wear them all at once, right? Each one's sort of stacked on top of one another. You don't ever take off a hat that you're wearing.
No, that's right. Because also there's where would I store it? My room is already full of gear, the booth, microphones and all the rest. There's no room for a hat stand.
The only place you've got space is your head, right?
Yeah.
So use it.
This makes perfect sense. You wear those hats while you're recording your show there, Chris?
Yes. I also have to wear about 3/4 of my clothes at any one time because, again, there's nowhere else to put them. So, which is good, except during the summer, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously very hot. It's very winter friendly. It's probably not as easy in the summer. What's your show about, Chris?
Okay, so Among the Stars and Bones is, as you said, audio drama or fiction podcast, whichever term you prefer. It is about a bunch of xenoarchaeologists a couple of hundred years in the future who go out and investigate the ruins of a particular alien civilization that was out there amongst the stars before we got there. And through each sort of season, they learn more about the site. They discover various kinds of artifacts. They all report back on the different things that they are finding because there's several characters that sort of, all pursuing their particular interests and goals. And nothing bad happens at all. It's just very, very chill because, no one's ever written a story in which people go to an alien site and it is what you expect. Hilarity ensues / people die. So, it's sci-fi, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of horror mixed in as well. Different characters reporting back on their findings, on the things that the questions that are being raised, and things, tend to go wrong the longer things go on for.
Quite the mystery. A tantalizing tale and an appropriate guest for here in the Hook Cook Kitchen where we weave our stories. It is time to roll up our sleeves for another shift here in the Hook Cook Kitchen. I am excited, as always I am, to take a pre-prepared prompt from our producer Vinny and turn that into a tantalizingly tasty tale for you, our dear listener. My fellow Hook Cooks and our guest have all had time to prepare a short written submission based on the pre-provided prompt, while I have remained in the dark. Together, the four of us will whip up a world, characters, and a story before serving up a radio play segment that we call the Plate Up. If you do have a prompt of your own, you can send that through to cooksofhooks@gmail.com or reach out to us on social media at @hook_cooks. Chefs, BFFs, guests. Let's get cooking. Now, Chris, as you are a guest here in the Hook Cook Kitchen, I will ask you to reveal to me the prompt.
Okay, so the prompt that I was sent and that we've all been looking at has been Mask of the Maker.
Ooh, Mask of the Maker. Here at the Hook Cooks, Chris, we all say the prompt after its first reveal.
So it's a Mask of the Maker.
Mask of the Maker.
Okay, good. We're free of the curse now. We've all said it. It's very important.
I thought it was that idea of we keep saying it until the words lose all meaning, and by the end of it just sounds like a whole bunch of random...
We've got about 45 minutes to get through to that point.
We'll cover that. Don't worry.
We always end up exploring that particular element of it, I feel. Yeah. Okay, Mask of the Maker. This is an interesting one. I like it. It's a rare treat for us to have a 3-word prompt. Before we do sink our teeth into the main submissions, though, it's time for the best before yesterdays, the first thoughts and the worst thoughts. I'll spare you going first on the queue here, Chris. I want to find out what Jack's got for me. What are your best before yesterdays, Jack?
Alrighty, Mask of the Maker. Faerun's premier reality television show. 10 talented arcane smiths show off their skills as they compete in a series of challenges to win the coveted Mask of the Maker, and an opportunity to showcase their work at Neverwinter Armored Fashion Week.
It's like a master chef for
Like a D&D, like Project Runway. Yeah.
Faerun's next top blacksmith.
That sort of stuff. Yeah.
Very
Okay.
cool.
I'm into that. All right. Nice. A solid start. Mitch, what is on your queue? What have you got for me? Best before yesterday.
Yeah, nice, small, easy one for you. Mask of the Maker. This is a small monkey-shaped mask that belongs to a friend of mine who doesn't know how to pronounce macaque.
Wow. Wow.
Right.
Wow. That's strange mind that
your
you
friend
have.
they're really getting it wrong. You know, like
Your friend
really getting it wrong.
Who shall remain nameless.
All right. Well, I'm not going to linger too long on the macaque. Chris, would you mind letting us know what your best before yesterday is?
I think, given the kind of story that I tell, my brain sort of started immediately going down that thing. And I'm a big fan of Babylon 5 from back in the day. So my first thought was that they had the notion there of the Great Maker. It was a kind of a catch-all expression to refer to the main god of many races, or maybe a kind of god of the universe, that sits above all planetary pantheons. So I just kind of had that idea in my head of Mask of the Maker seeming like a really good MacGuffin artifact, deep in some long-forgotten ancient alien civilization's vault on a dead world. An artifact that is said to perhaps give one the powers of that maker, of the maker, or to become the maker's avatar or something like that. The translation isn't clear, but no matter what, putting it on will almost certainly turn out to be a bad idea, and obviously someone is going to put it on.
Yeah,
naturally.
And then they turn into a macaque, right? Like,
yeah, no, 100%.
It's Chekhov's mask.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I feel like this would probably tear down a lot of, throughout the universe, a lot of, cultures when they find out what the mask looks like.
That's a good point.
Because, what is God's face?
Yeah, that's
right?
a point. Like, if it's a two-eyed or a three-eyed or a four-eyed mask, that does imply something, doesn't it? Yeah. It's a good point.
Yeah.
And is that supposed to represent what God looks like? Or God, you don't know who God is until they put on the mask, right? It's
maybe it's a trap for who. Listen, whatever the Maker's got planned for us, we may explore it, because that's an interesting tangent, and it's something that we may end up pulling in to the main meat and potatoes. Well, with those behind us, firmly behind us, disappearing in the rearview mirror, it's time to move on to the main submissions, what we like to call the meat and potatoes. Mitch, Jack, and our guest Chris have had some time to prepare, so without further ado, Chris, please present your meat and potatoes.
You've changed your mind, though, haven't you? You're going, of course. His mother's tone was nonchalant enough, but Simon could no longer be sure. He leaned back in his chair, appearing to consider the matter, but really he was watching his mother out of the corner of his eye. He could see it now. The way she leaned forward, the held breath. His answer mattered more to her than it should for something that, on the surface, was just a minor town event. And it could only matter to her if she knew that what he knew about what had happened to the others. And that meant she wanted the same for him. But how could a mother want her son to become like... He realised he'd taken too long of a pause, gone too long without answering. Yeah, probably, he managed eventually. Not like there's anything good on TV. She smiled then, a mother's smile. A smile that made him think of warm hugs and kisses on skinned knees to make them better, and fresh-baked cookies and soothing words that had calmed him when nightmares had woken him. Of years of love and care and trust. And for a second, he found himself wanting to believe that his mother could not be part of all this, could not want this fate for him. That somehow the person before him was some sort of doppelganger, a robot, an alien replacement. But he'd learned a lot in the last 2 weeks, putting it all together. The stuff behind the panel at the back of the closet had been the last piece. He knew now that this was who she had always been.
Cool.
Ooh.
So like
what a mystery. Wow.
You've left a lot in the air for us to explore, which I'm really happy with.
Yeah, that was kind of...
This is very, very interesting. Okay,
For sure.
So this is from the perspective of a child who is going through some kind of situation, or a teenager whose parent is essentially... has always had some kind of devious plan for them.
Yeah, it sounds like they're like pushing them into it a little bit. Like there's this thing that they're a part of that they want their child to be a part of as well. Right? Is that sort of the foundation of the idea?
I think, a few of the things I was... Cult. Well, that's right. I think a few of the things I was drawing on were ideas like disturbing behaviour, the Stepford Wives, those kinds of things where there's that little bit of that undercurrent.
Hot fuzz. I got a bit of hot fuzz.
Yeah, sure. Even a little bit of that potentially as well. But that, I think ultimately too, one of the other things too was this idea that it's not that the parents are monsters or doppelgangers or alien replacements. It's that they're showing their true monstrosity as humans, I think was kind of what I was sort of trying to pull from.
Yeah,
totally.
I'm very compelled by this element of the story. I think it's something that we're absolutely likely to fold in. Before we do get too carried away in answering the question marks that are before us, I think that we should roll ahead and find out what we've got meat and potatoes wise with the rest of the chefs here. So, without further ado, Mitch, please present your meat and potatoes.
All right. If this is a dream, then it is an expensive dream. The ballroom floor is polished timber, the brocaded drapes rich velvet. The food and wine looks exquisite, though you know the cost of consuming it is far greater than you can afford to pay. There are no doors, no windows, no band, and yet music and starlight fill the space. To the music, dancers sway in painful synchronicity. Not one step, not one twirl of a gown or glint of a cufflink is out of place. They are immortally, eternally identical. But for the masks, they shine and shimmer, glittering with gemstones mundane and alien, brightly, darkly. Rainbow fluorescence under the flickering light of the chandelier. Animalistic faces, primal, elemental, abstract. And you must find one. Someone in this crowd of faceless dancers is the mask maker, hidden in plain sight. You clutch your own mask in your hands, the painstaking effort of years of toil. You had been proud of it. In any other setting, it would be a masterpiece. Here, tonight, at the culmination, the testing, it feels plain. But it will do. Find the mask maker. Offer her your creation in tribute, and you may move on, or fail, and join the dancers forever.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so some kind of strange, abstract, test of the gods or something.
So going like a fairy fae masquerade ball.
I like this, kind of this play on the mask maker has a mask, and you're trying to find them. I feel like it would invariably end up being kind of an Indiana Jones and the Last
there's a little bit of that.
Style.
I'm not gonna lie, that's where my brain went to. Yeah.
Jack, without any further ado, please present your meat and potatoes.
All right, here we go. Are you having trouble getting the masses to follow your grand design? Does it feel like you're going to need a miracle to enact your super secret plan? Contact Mask of the Maker today for the confidence boost you need to turbocharge your worship levels. Here at Mask of the Maker, for a nominal fee, we'll hunt, execute, and skin some of the most potent and powerful gods on the astral plane, turning them from useless embodiments of natural forces into hyper-powerful god masks, trademark, which you can use to bend the fundamental rules of the universe to your very whim. Get in touch today at 1-800-BA-GOD and ask us about our special 2-for-1 deal on ancestral spirit masks. Mask of the Maker. Wear it, wield it, love it.
Love it?
Love it. So I think these ideas all fit, tonally very similarly.
You guys must have been in the same Uber doing it in the back, right? Look, okay, so very interesting. I like it as taking away the idea that there are god masks.
Yeah.
This fits, I feel, somewhat into the idea of a mask maker, into this idea of a secret township, perhaps, and this township is a cult in worship of the mask maker of some description.
Sure. What if, the idea of them seeing the mask is... Because I think if we're going to, establish this as kind of like a culty vibe, then, the stuff that you've laid out makes sense, right? The idea that this kid's been indoctrinated from when he was young or when they were young. What if the idea of seeing behind the mask is more that this kid has recently encountered an event which displays the sort of inherent issues with this cult. Like, if they're making masks out of gods, if that's the thing that we go with, he sees them kill a god. And, like, before that happens, there's, like, a touching moment between them. Like, he, like, shares a moment with this god, and then they like, butcher it in front of him.
So you're doing he's born into it. They're born into it. You've got the protagonists in a situation where they're kind of encountering the bad side of the...
They think it's great, right? They think this cult is great. This cult is like the way this town works, and like it's awesome. And then they see like the turn of it.
Okay, now that you've hit your sort of majority age or whatever it is, you get invited into the the cloister room for the ritual, and then we kill and eat a god.
Or perhaps they even sneak in, like they're not supposed to have seen it yet because they've caught it early without context. I'm also thinking just about that idea instead of the touching moment. I think possibly too, it's there might be that element of, obviously to kill a god is to undermine certain aspects of the natural cosmological order. So I also have that idea that maybe it's not just that you see that god die, you see a little, it's like a light going out in the universe. You see, the ground.
Grass is a little less green.
Nature, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, all that sort of stuff as they bleed out or whatever.
Princess Mononoke stuff, right? Yeah, I really like the idea of them sneaking in and seeing it, because it's like they're not prepared, like they're not fully indoctrinated yet. So you have like this moment before they're like completely desensitized.
Like maybe you notice that there's like after the ritual, there's no more birds in the morning, right? Just something really subtle and like creepy and bad.
Yeah.
I want to think about what the cult, what this townsfolk of, I guess, parents and other people are doing / using this power for. Like what do we think is driving them other than it, I guess, seems pretty cool to have cool masks.
I think you've got to make their hangout like Shangri-La, right? Like everything they're doing is to make their own community benefit while everything outside of their community suffers. You have like town leaders that are taking on these masks and are taking on the responsibility of using the powers inherent in them. So like the next day, all of the birds are on like this one dude or something. I don't know. But I think they need to be like selfishly using the power for their own purposes. And like it seems the effect that this might have is the things that are being taken away from elsewhere are being amplified for the benefit of that community.
I think maybe if we strip like the idea of like a singular power belonging to a singular god, it's a little bit more interesting. Like maybe it's giving them like eternal life or something like that, right? Like I feel like if we're telling this story about losing these things from the world, they shouldn't be present anymore.
I kind of thematically like the idea that you're like the cult. It's all of these wonderful, unique, and diverse things are actually being ground up just to be like life juice. Right. And it's not that you've got the god of birdsong. It's that there are so many gods from so many different religions and so many different cultures and so many different pantheons that they have stolen one god from one place and taken birdsong from them. And as a result, the world is a little less filled with birdsong because there's like 40 or 50 gods of birdsong. Like total.
Maybe something to do with their process is that they like place some of the power in like a repository within the town, and that also like I like what they're getting out of it should be like sort of a singular focus kind of industry thing, right?
Yeah, it's the battery. It's reducing a landscape to the coal you can cut out of the hole you put in it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they have kind of a Mount Olympus like setup that's being fueled by the power of gods that they're killing and turning into masks, right? The turning it into a mask, I imagine, is going to like harken back to an old tradition that allowed them to access the power in the first place. Something to do with identity. Maybe all of these masks are hanging in one extremely grim room in the center of the town where like the crystal is kept or whatever, right? I'm interested in finding out what the through thread of this story is, but before we do flesh it out any further, I think it might be time to stop in for a side salad.
Let's do that. Let's head on over to the side salad station where my Montclair has assembled a veritable bounty of undiscovered, untold, and unseen prompts. We're going to pick one at random by spinning this big wheel, and whatever we get, we will incorporate into our meal.
Spinning sound effects.
The side salad this week is Wake Up, Honey, we're in Victorian England.
This is good. This is good. The idea is completely transposable to like an aesthetic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we can absolutely transpose this. In fact, the honey wake up element of it is correct for the narrative that we have.
Yeah, wake up, honey.
Wake up,
child. It's time to join my steampunk god mask cult.
Well, it fits nicely into Industrial Revolution kind of vibe as well. Like it's literally turning gods into dinosaur juice. So yeah, that fits.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's like our metaphor works very neatly in the Industrial Revolution. I'm happy for that. Cool. All right. Well, that was an easy transition. I'm happy with that. Let's try and think of a basic narrative that might fit inside of this wonderful world that we've created. Obviously, we've got like our end goal, which is the big crystal with all the mask juice in it. We've got our starting point where we sneak in and observe the cult of killing a god and see it happen and are severely affected by it. What's the meat in this story sandwich here?
I do think perhaps there is a chance that our kid was someone who is noted for his particular devotion, particular model citizenry, or something along those lines. Like, if not necessarily earmarked
classic
to
son of the emperor falling.
Well, not even that level. It's just more that thing of like, there's someone there's a kid I see going places. There's a kid I see having potential. They may well be the one wielding the knife. They may well be the one making the mask. But it's more that idea of like they are the model of what they expect people to be in this society that has benefited from this power. So, like I think just one of those kids potentially that everybody knows. Oh, that's Bob and Maggie's kid. Yeah, no, great kid. Wish my son was more like him.
Yeah. I think that works well. And I'm not necessarily married to the idea of them being the families of mask makers, or whether or not there is just one particular mask maker in the town. I don't know whether we.
Yeah, I feel like the cult produces the mask, and that's enough.
I think it makes it harder for there to be a thing to stop if that's
the big crystal. I feel
the battery that
we've got to turn the battery off, right?
Like that's the thing. That's the fulcrum upon which this whole thing runs.
But the cult could just make a new battery, I suppose.
Like we would put in some sort of.
Let's imagine it's hard to make a new battery.
Yeah, so like the battery is the unique element here, not the masks, I suppose. The masks just feed the battery. I don't know.
Okay, so Wake Up, Honey. It's Victorian England.
Yeah.
And your parents are telling you to get ready for the big day.
Yeah.
Kind of echoing the tale that Chris put forward to us.
Uh-huh.
You know that something's wrong because the night before, you shouldn't have, and it's not. You're normally a good kid, and you normally do exactly what you're told. But for one reason or another, you just had to sneak a peek into the big tent, and you saw it go down.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've woken up, and you're seeing through your parents' charade. You're seeing everything in a new light.
Yeah.
We now need to get from A to B. So what's the tale of espionage here? Obviously, you'll figure out that perhaps the battery needs to go, and we know that in the end, you'll kick the battery off a big cliff or something, and we'll get there when we get there. But how do we start getting toward it?
What if, just for sort of levity's sake, rather than it being the night before, you snuck in and saw this ritual like a while ago. And since that point in time, you have been preparing to...
That's cool. Yep. I like that.
Take it down, right?
And you've continued to play the role of the perfect kid. Okay, that's a longer story and actually fills our story out better. So the story would start with you're a good kid, you do everything right, and then you see this happen.
Yeah.
And then over the course of the story, you learn how, like, where the battery's located.
Yeah.
You develop a plan on how to destroy it, and you actually have to keep your head low and pretend to be okay with all of this shit.
Yeah.
And I think it makes like sense. Like, this is a good, like, Honey is a good kid. Honey's going to be the future of the town, but probably Honey has some friends who maybe are like, hey, like, let's sneak out, and peer pressure. One thing leads to another. God murder witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, do you want to ragtag it? This kid's got like one kid that's really nerdy and he makes inventions, and then like a big kid. And...
I don't know if a ragtag fits.
Dang it. Okay, I always try to ragtag
it. No, but it's funny you say that, because I also am wondering about, thinking about that need to destroy it, and it being something that is supernatural in nature, even though it's been technologically, a combination probably technologically, magically harnessed. I'm also wondering if part of what needs to happen is we need to actually sneak out of the utopia, go out into the wider world, perhaps taking our group of friends along with. But I'm also just wondering about that idea of they've got to go to the places where the gods are,
and that, I think, is really good because it gives us a way to paint what the rest of the world looks like outside of this.
Yeah, and they get to see the damage that they've done as a result of living in this world too. Yeah.
If you've got your ragtag, then you can have like the protagonist is really knows exactly what they want, but throughout the course of the story, you can like have a kid slowly, like at first, not really agree with what the others want to do, but he comes along anyway, and then he sees the damage that's going on in the world and goes, oh shit, actually, even though my dad's the CEO of godmask.org or whatever, it's Victorian England.
That could be the literal like son of the emperor type kid.
Yeah.
Like you can get a couple of those tropes in there.
Believers.
I like the idea of it. Yeah, exactly. Like and he's coming. His little his B story is that he's planning on spying on you, but he ends up helping you in the end.
And it even looks at the last minute like he sold you out, but he either reneges at the last minute and gives you the out, or this was actually a double triple cross because
it was
that actually allowed you to get closer.
It's a quad cross.
That allows you to get close to the actual crystal when you couldn't, and of course, no one would suspect that the son of the emperor would be the one who would actually carry the artifact in, and throw it out of his backpack at the key moment or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really like that. I really like the idea that like you've got a bit of a Zuko character with you who like learns that you're actually being noble in their life is problematic, and one or two other ragtag characters that we can flesh out if need be. I think this is kind of the arc of the story, right? Mm-hmm. You find out about the true nature of the like Olympus that you live in, the Victorian steampunk Olympus that you live in. It's wonderful. It's this Shangri-La, but it's actually false. You take your friends and you go out into the world around, find information about the family of the god that was killed. They give you more information about tools that you can use to destroy the battery and free the energy back into the world. You take that back to base. The quad cross happens. London. Back to London, England.
Back to London.
And then you blow up the Mjolnir, the crystal, and release the energy back into the world and stop the Industrial Revolution from happening.
That's it. We did it.
Nice. I like it. Okay, this is a tale. We now need to narrow our focus in on potentially a singular scene for us to use for the plate up. Chris, do you have any part of this tale that you think could use a magnifying lens?
Well, there's a few obvious spots. I mean, one is obviously the initial, shocking out of the thing. Another might be is in the witnessing of the killing of the original god. Another might be that moment, like the actual moment of encountering the rest of the world and really starting to see and put it together. The climax itself always a solid option. Yeah, there's definitely a few spots along the way to hit that could be a lot of fun.
A cup overfloweth.
I was first drawn to either the witnessing the murder and sort of that moment of sinking realization, I think could be really interesting to delve into. I do love the octuple cross. But that we often steer away from doing climaxes. So
I think for me it's the witnessing the murder. That seems like the most powerful and interesting moment.
Absolutely. Okay. I agree entirely. I think this is the thing that kicks off our plot. It'll give us lots of opportunity to flesh out our main character, the characters that they go with, the before, the after of this very important moment. Okay. Well, without any further ado, let's power on through to the plate up.
Let's kill a god.
Killing gods this week.
Man, I did that last week.
You shouldn't be out tonight, darting between pools of lantern light towards the cathedral. You should be in bed, drifting off to the distant hubbub of the adults' ceremonial feast. As always, it will begin in earnest at midnight under the full moon's light. For now, they drink blessed wine, eat and pray, totally unsuspecting of your imminent breach of their trust. The grass under your feet is soft, the air fresh, the scent of cedar and pine lingers in every breath. There are no trees remain within the growing town's wide streets.
You absolutely will not!
Damien's voice is scandalized.
You will, won't you, honey?
Pip cuts in.
That's the thing about a double dog, triple decker dare sandwich. You have to.
Damien deflates. Not even he, son of the highest father of the church, can deny a double dog, triple decker dare sandwich. And so he draws from within his pocket a key on a silver chain and unbolts the side entrance of the cathedral. Pip's eyes shine bright, nudging you into the dark entry. You squint, heart racing. The church is dimly lit inside, candles burning a low violet. You've only ever seen it gleaming with sunlight. You're not old enough to see it on ritual nights, not allowed, not yet. A shiver races down your spine as you hear distant, muttered conversation. Of course, some are here. You freeze, turn to leave. Behind, Damien and Pip stand united as never before. Their lips move silently. You catch double dog before giving up and turning back to your quest. You've always wanted to know. You blink a few more times, steel yourself, and press deeper into the shadows.
You had no idea what to expect, but it wasn't this. A cage lies before you. Someone slumped on the floor. Confused, more than a little scared, you move closer. You pitch forward, losing your balance in the dim light and your eagerness to see more of the cage's occupant, your hands taking the shock of impact on cold flagstones. You let out a sharp wince, biting it off immediately lest any of the adults hear.
You all right, honey?
Pip's voice, seemingly so far away, low and worried. You are about to reply, but the words are quickly lost as you raise your head up and behold the face of the one inside the cage. You have no words to describe the face. Beauty, awe, majesty, wisdom, power, eternity. They are mere labels. The face before you embodies them in ways that render them as nothing but abstractions. It is nothing less than the face of a god. Nothing else can fit. You know it as surely as you know that the sun will rise tomorrow. A god lies before you, in a cage, in the cathedral that marks the center of your world. But the church worships no gods, recognizes no deity, only the mask and its maker, only the light and its bounty. It, he, they, the god looks upon you with curiosity, but also a sadness, a sense of loss and of endings. You have read the stories and myths of other lands, devoured contraband tales of the world outside, given you by Mildred, the indulgent librarian. You know that in the old stories, gods were sometimes run to ground by pursuing hunters, rent and torn in acts of sacrifice and renewal. Year on year, they would rise and fall again, giving of themselves for the benefit of all. There is something of that in the god's eyes, but also something else. A feeling of wrongness. The god looks upon you, and you know something then. Thoughts beyond words. Thoughts deeper than time. Cannot understand them all now, but...
They're coming! Get out!
This time Pip sounds closer, dragging you back to more earthly matters. You hear the adults, voices echoing from beyond.
You hear the rustling of robes as the adults enter the room. Excitedly, you peek through a gap in the curtain you've ducked behind. Church members surround the cage in a semicircle, hoods covering their faces in shadow. They look strangely solemn, and you feel a twinge of apprehension. Something about this is wrong. The member standing at the center of the circle steps forward, lowering their hood, and you recognize your mother. She unlocks the cage and beckons the god forward, into the middle of the circle. It moves towards your mother slowly, cautiously. She reaches out and strokes that indescribable face. For a moment, you feel relieved. Then, you see the flash of the knife. Blood sprays across the room as the god lets out a low, pitiful moan. The members in the circle begin to chant, deep and rhythmic. Your mother stabs again and again, blood and gore splashing across her face in a crimson wave. You catch her expression in the candlelight, and she looks exultant, her eyes bright, her face split in a mad grin. You want to look away. You want to be sick. You want to forget, but you can't. Your eyes are locked on this grisly scene, this bloodbath led by the woman who raised you, who nursed you back to health when you were sick and cooked your favorite meal on your birthday, who tucked you in at night and told you the monsters in the dark couldn't hurt you as long as she was near. And so you watch as your mother bends down to the now dead god at her feet, presses the blade of her knife to its face, and begins to cut the mask.
A+ on every book report, A+ for maths, for township history, for civic duty. Hell, even for attendance, you'd always earned an A+, gold stars, extra credit. Beyond that, you'd excelled at Sunday school and in all church-related affairs. Your mother, ever the saintly one, had promised you that the town was special for a special reason, a holy reason. She'd pushed you to succeed in this place, where life was easy, where things happened almost like magic. Now, the image of your mother, unhooded and chanting, carving the visage from the skull, hoisting the dripping face of that divine being before the congregation, that image has burned away any sense of softness that you had once attributed to your pious mother. Your father had been there too, one of the many familiar figures that had stood in the back, his eyes gleaming as the face was waved around. You realized as the churchgoers filter out that you had barely breathed in minutes. You find your feet and, finally, you scurry away, fighting the urge to gag, to wail, to scream. Outside the cathedral, waiting for you in the brisk night cold, are your friends, who receive you with excitement.
Go you, Jammy Dodger. What went down? What you see, Gov?
Come on then, you pilchard. Out with a sharpish. No mucking about.
Blimey, mate. He was in there for bloomin' donkey's ears.
You look proper knackered, mate. What took you so long?
Come on, you proper muppet. Spit it out quick like. No faffing about.
You lucky bleeder. What's the caper then? Spill the beans, mate. What you clap eyes on?
Your breath is ragged. The voices of your friends seem to fade into faint echoes. You've now seen the cost of this town's convenience, of its vitality, of its splendor. And although your life had been spent serving the church, serving the town, serving your mother, you know now that all the lies, all the secrecy, it had to end. No more masks.
Dun, dun, dun.
Because it's like the mask is like a lie.
It's like,
and it's like
the masks are like lies, but it's also literally like your face has been ripped off and turned into like a Harlequin-esque mask. So I think the metaphor, it's delicious. Yeah, thank you for propelling us toward this face-based crime, Chris. Much appreciated.
I honestly just mostly had in my own head when I wrote that it turned out the mother just like didn't always use her indicator when she was. But look, you know,
okay, right.
So worse crimes. You're saying
that's
worse
crimes.
crimes.
Yeah, she's got a Collingwood flag in a little altar.
Yeah.
Well, controversial, very controversial stuff. Look, thank you to the listener for joining us here in the Hook Cook Kitchen. If you've got a prompt out there that you'd like to shoot through to us and have us turn it into an episode, something like Mask of the Maker, shoot that through to cooksofhooks@gmail.com or use @hook_cooks for the socials.
Yes, and if you enjoyed this episode, please tell Papa Algorithm in all the ways that you know how. Like it, subscribe it, share it, blitz it, bop it. We're all counting on you. And of course, also go and listen to Among the Stars and Bones for an audio experience that I personally guarantee to include slightly less face skinning. No spoilers, question mark?
Yes, of course. Thank you to our guest, Chris, from Among the Stars and Bones. Chris, do you have one more plug for us here?
Yeah, look, you know, if you like your sci-fi mystery with a little bit of horror audio drama, if we've you know, a bit of the found footage kind of thing with full cast, all giving different perspectives on what's happening, full sound design, and lots of fun to be had. We've got one season out that was released some years ago now, and by the time this is coming out, we'd be nearly at the end of our hiatus, halfway through releasing season 2. So, you know, a whole new adventure that would be about halfway through at this point. So, lots of out there. We do get comp to the White Vault a little bit. You know, if you're looking for something kind of to, I guess, base the choice off, if you're into that sort of stuff. And yeah, I guess you get to see more of what I do with words. I generally cut less faces off, but you know, I'm getting into it. Maybe that's a new direction for the show.
That's it.
Haven't
Season
really embraced
3, look out.
haven't really embraced that level of body horror just yet, but some people would argue that we get close sometimes.
And thank you to Holizna, who we thank for our opening theme, Sailing Away. And of course, from everyone here, I'd like to thank Jack's mum.
Thanks, Mum.
Thank you.
I would thank Jack's mum, you know, because we thank all the mums.
I've been your larder critter, Connor.
My name is Tishbot, and tonight I played the role of Jack.
And I am Chris Magilton, voice actor, creator of Among the Stars and Bones, and part-time classical dance teacher. One of those is probably a lie.
And I am Mitch, the Monster Chef. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you again for joining us, Chris. Are we happy, boys?
Yes, Jeff. Indeed, you quoted Oscar Wilde. I returned to you the character of Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie.
That's a 1 for 1. That's a perfect balance. Yep,
pretty much a 1 for 1.
Oscar Wilde, Ivan Ooze. The greats.